Hello, my gorgeous friends on the internet. How you all doing? I believe you enjoyed the previous video where I showed you how to authenticate users using your Google and Facebook. So in that video, I promised I was going to make another tutorial for authenticating users using their phone numbers. Okay, so that's what this video is all about. We'll see how to authenticate a user using their phone number. All right. So now this is the project we have been working on, and this was where we left off from the previous video. All right. So what I'm going to do, you can see inside the prospect.yaml file, I still have the Firebase auth. So using phone authentication, we don't need to add any other dependency or any package. We are still going to make use of the Firebase authentication. All right. And if you can see, I'm still using the same version, which is 0.20.1. all right. So I'll go to this login page, and from this login page I want to create another class. I'm going to create another dat file. So this one is going to be for phone auth. All right, phone auth.dat, and I want to create a stateful widget here. So basically because it's the widget is going to change with time, so I'm going to call this phone auth. Okay, so now we have the widgets, and this can just be a scaffold, and I can return an app bar, and I'm going to call this just a simple app bar with the test as the title, which is going to be phone authentication, right? All right, so now I'm going to currently now you cannot see this page. So what I'm going to do inside this login page, I'm going to create a button here, just a simple button here to log in with, to give the user the option to log in with phone number. So you can design this whichever way you want, but for this case I'm just going to go with that. So let's see, we have the login. All right, so I'm going to go down to this place, so where we have the Facebook icon, and I want to put it under it. So let me just format this properly. All right, so under here now I'm going to create it's going to be a container. I'm going to give it a container, and I need a trailing comma here. All right, so, and I forgot to tell you that this video is going to be a little bit longer because I'm going to design the UI first before I start doing the implementation. All right, so just bear with me and let's start going. So now I'm going to have a test widget. So basically this is going to be for continue with phone. So you can style this whichever way you want, but for simplicity I will just go with all this. So you can do it anyhow you want. So we have that, but it's not nice. I can just give it a margin. So let's go it's going to be vertical, so I just give it 50. all right, so that there will be some space around, and I can just give it a padding here. So let's go with and just give it 10, and then give it a color. All right, so I'm not going to do much work here, so just give it a color of let's say detector. Basically it's just going to take you to the next page. All right, so we're going to go navigator. I think I have it here, so I'm just going to copy this, push and remove. Now I don't want to use push and remove, so I have navigator.push. all right, so I'm just going to copy this, and put it here. All right, so now where are we pushing to? We are pushing to this next page, which is this phone auth class. All right, so you can copy that, go back here and replace it to this, and don't forget to import it as well. All right, so now save this, and we have the button. So if I click on it now, we are going to the that page. All right, so this is where we're going to write all our implementation. This is also where we're going to design the widget. So remember, for phone auth it takes two test fields. So the first field is where the users are going to put in their phone number, and then the second field is where they're going to put the code, because once you put your phone number, we are going to verify the phone first, and once the message is being sent, we get the code. The user will now input it inside the second box, and then we verify the code, and then if it's correct, we sign the user in. All right, that's what we are going to do. So I can close this one now. I don't need it anymore, so I'm only going to work with this one right now. All right, so we're going to design the widgets, this widget real quick. So I have a body. I'm going to use a container. All right, so I'll be fast in this, but I will also be explaining why I move. So I have an agent set. So this is going to give it a padding around the container. Okay, so save it. Right now you cannot see the padding. Okay, and then I'm going to give it a child. So it's going to be a column. Yeah, a column, because I want it to show in form of yeah, a column. So I want it to show vertically. So I'll have the column. In your case, you want to put a single child scroll view to make it scrollable. Okay, but in this tutorial I don't think that is necessary, so I'll just go with the children. So the children, first thing I'm going to create for the phone feed. So this is going to be the phone feed where the users are going to put in their phone number. Okay, so I'll also use a container for this, and the container we have a margin, and yeah, a margin. I believe, I don't think this is necessary, but let's just go with it for now. Okay, and it's gonna be, I just want to put it at the top. Okay, that only. Okay, can give it top to be 10. All right, then the next thing I'm going to do is to create the child for this. So the child, since it's I'm going to create it as a, okay, let's just proceed. So the child will have a row. Okay, so this is still the child, and with inside here I'm going to create the text editing controller, and then we're going to get a button. Once you click on it, it's going to trigger the phone authentication, the phone verification, and then send the code to the user. All right, so inside this children, I want to return a drop down button, and this is not necessary, but for your sake I want you to learn how to use a drop down button. So what the drop down button will do, basically just to show the list of country, is it zip code, is it zip code, yeah, the country zip code for your phone number, I believe, for each country. So what I'm going to do under here, I'm going to create a list. So it's going to be a list of string. Okay, I'm not going to create it here, so let me just move over to this part. Okay, so first thing first, I'm going to create a selected country. So it's going to be a string, and I will name it, yeah, it should be a string. Okay, selected country. So this is the country code that the user selected country. Yeah, and don't worry, you understand what I meant by that. So basically, since I'm in Nigeria, I'm going to use +234, and this is our country code, right, for phone number. And correct me if I'm wrong. All right, so this is just going to be the default one. You can change it if you're from India, you're from USA, you can change it to your default one. All right, so I'm going to create a list that will contain all this country code that is going to show whenever the user clicks on drop down. All right, so I'll just call this one country. Yeah, I'll just call them country, and I will set it to, it's going to be a list. Yeah, it's going to be a list, and the first one is going to be this +234. Okay, and the second one, let's say +1. And the third one, I'll just stop here. So depending on what your country code is, you can just put it inside the list. All right, so we have this tree here, and what I'm going to do now inside is, I'm going to use a drop down button because I want it to be drop down. You can select. All right, so I'm going to use a drop down button, and it's going to be of type string. So the first widget is going to be the one that is going to display the country code. So I'll use drop down button. So in this tutorial, just have in mind that you're also learning how to use drop down button as well. All right, to show list of country codes. Okay, but in this case I just use 3. You can increase it depending on the countries you want to include in your app. And I will set the value first. So the value is going to be this selected country, which is the first value. So make sure you copy it, and I'll paste it here. Oops. It's going to be selected country, and then secondly we are going to have the items. Very important, is a list, and it is this one I created here. So I'll just map through it using countries.map. Okay, so countries.map, and basically I need to return country does map, and I'm going to return I'm going to return a drop down menu item. Yeah, drop down menu item, and it takes a child. So this child is more like a test widget, so we're going to display a test widget there. And remember, this this stuff here is actually a string, so you can just give it a type, and it's actually a string which is actually taking each of these values inside the country. All right, so just passing the e there, and then the value is going to be e as well, and I think that is it. And I need to return, okay, cover this and then convert this to list. Okay, and then I need to put this as a string as well. Okay, it's going to take a type of string, and then this one, the map. Okay, let's run it and see, save it, and let's see what will happen here. All right, so if you look closely, you can see the +234, which is actually the default value. Inside this, I'm going to create an unchanged property. So basically it takes a value of string. So this is just once you select any value, this one is going to take in the value that was selected. So for now, I'm just going to print out the value to see what was selected. Okay, and I think this will not also fix this. Okay, now we can see it's now showing darker instead of fainted. So if we click on it, it should bring out the pop-up. All right, so now if I select, let me select +1, it should print out +1. If I select +34, and you can see the country code is printing out successfully. All right, I think we are good. But now what I want to do is to set the state back to this selected country whenever we click. So what I will just do, I'll just use a set state. So depending on state management you're using, but I just want to make things simple, that's why I'm using set state. So I will just set the selected country equal to the value. Okay, so whenever we set state, it will be assigned to the selected country. All right, okay, I think we are good with that part, but I think it having an underline here, and we can't see that properly. So what I'll do, I'm going to style this container a little bit. So what I'll do, I'll add a padding first, okay, to make it look good. Okay, so this is just like depending on how you want yours to be, so it doesn't matter, but I'm going to style it the way I want. Okay, so this is going to be horizontal. I'll just give it 10, okay, to give it some space. All right, it moves out a little bit. So I'm going to give it a decoration because I want to set some border around the container. So I will say boss decoration. Okay, so the boss decoration, I'll give it a border, and it's going to take border.all. So, and I will give it a color. So color basically is going to be, let's say gray. Let's go with gray, colors are gray. Okay, all right, so and then secondly, I'll give it a width, let's go with 1.5, and save this, and let's see. Okay, so we have this nice looking interface. Okay, so I think that is good. And now we are going to create the next I'm going to create is a divider, because normally, and okay, there's an underline showing there. So let me see if I can get rid of that underline. This stuff has a property of underline, so I can just set it to an empty container. Okay, all right, let's see. Okay, the underline is gone. All right, so now we can okay, under here I will create a divider, okay, to just separate these two stuff. Okay, so what I will do, I'll just create a divider here. And I know Flutter has a divider widget, and I think that one just displays the divider in the form of horizontal. So we want to create our own to show it in form of vertical. So to do that, I'll just see how to I'll just use my container widget to form this one myself. Okay, so I'll give it a margin first. So it's going to be constant. Okay, so not it's going to be symmetric because I want you to have horizontal, so it's going to be 10, and then I'm going to give it a height of 15. Okay, save that. We shouldn't see anything, I believe, because it has no color yet. So let me just give it a color, and it's going to be let me say black. Okay, save it. I believe we shouldn't see anything because the width is not yet set. So let's give it a width. All right, so the width is going to be let's say 2. Yeah, 2 will be okay. And if you look closely, you can see it has this. Okay, so now we have a nice looking divider there, and you can increase the height if you want to, let's say 25, and it's going to go up a little bit. All right, you can see the nice looking divider there. All right, so the next thing I'm going to create now is to the enter phone feed. Yeah, like more like a widget, like a test form feed for entering the phone number of the user. Okay, so this is more like a phone feed. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'll use this as an expanded widget because I want it to occupy the available spaces from here down to this place. Okay, so what I'll do, I'll give it a child. Oops. Okay, remove this. Okay, a child, and the child is going to be a test form feed. Okay, so in case you're using test feed is okay, but I don't like using test feed. I don't know why, but I just prefer test form feed. Okay, and we can give it a keyboard type. Let's save it first and see the test feed. All right, you can see the test feed is showing. If you click on it, it will bring up the keyboard, and if you type, I believe some things are going to come up. All right, but this test is not yet looking as we want, so I'm going to give it some basic styling. So give it a decoration first, and the decoration is going to be an input decoration. Okay, so I think there's actually a better way of making everything simple, but I just want you to learn how to work with widgets with Flutter for those of you who are new with it. So I'm just going to show you all these. I know the video is going to be long, but it's worth it. I'm going to give you the hint test, which is okay, enter phone number. All right, so if I save it, you should see the hints. The underline is gone, so right now you cannot see the hints because we have a test there already. So if I remove the test, you should see the hint, which is enter phone number. Okay, so now another thing I need to do is to add the keyboard type shouldn't be a test, so it should just be a phone. So I have test input type dot phone. Okay, save that, and I can remove this. So oops, remove this. Okay, if I click, okay, go back, continue with phone, and if I click, it should bring out a phone keyboard. This is nice. Okay, so now the next thing I'm going to create is the controller. So the controller basically will help us to retrieve the controller whenever the user types in anything. So I believe you're familiar with this, so I'm going to create that above here. So it's going to be a test form feed for retrieving the controller, tests editing controller, and the name is this, and I'll say tests. All right, so I believe the error is gone by now. Okay, and then finally for this phone feed is to add a clear button here. Create a clear icon, so you can skip this to the part where I integrated the phone number if you want, but you can still continue if you also want. So here I'm going to go with an icon button. So basically this icon button is going to be of icons.close. Okay, and on pressed, so once I press it, I just want to clear everything. Okay, icons, I hope I'm not mistaken here. Okay, so I need to put icon first. All right, so once you press on that stuff, what I want to do is just to clear the phone. So set state the phone, which is the editing controller here, so I'll just clear it phone.clear. Okay, so I'm just going to set it to an empty string. All right, save this. Okay, save it, and let's see if the icon is going to show. All right, so we have this icon here. So now if I type some text and if I click on it, it's going to set it to empty string. Okay, all right, so that is it. But right now there's something else I want to do. What about if the user is already okay, if the user is not typing, I don't want to show this text. Okay, let's just go with that. Let's leave it that way. Or I can just do it if the user is not typing. I don't want to show this, but once the user types in anything, then I want to show this for them to clear it. So to do that, I'm going to create a boolean value here. So it's going to be more like a show clear icon. So by default, it's going to be false. Okay, all right, so all these parts are not necessary, but I just want to show you how to do all these things. So here I'll use some operator. So this is just like an inline conditional statement. So I will say show clear icon, which is the variable I created. So if it's equal to false, then I'll just return an empty test widget. But if it's not equal to false, then I can just return an icon button. Okay, so we can save this and let's see, it should be gone. All right, so now it's gone. And if I start typing now, if I start typing, okay, it's not showing. Okay, that is because this test controller needs an unchanged property, so to actually know if this stuff is changing or not. Okay, so I'll just set unchanged and it takes a value, and so I'll use some set state here. So just set state. So I will check for condition if the value, that is this current value, the test editing controller, if it's empty. So what I'll do is just to show the clear icon. Okay, show clear icon, and I will set it to true. Else, that is if it's not empty, so I will do the same thing, show clear icon, and set it to false. Okay, why am I getting a 1 in here? Okay, I need to remove this. It should be 1. All right, so save that, and then okay, I can go back now. Okay, and if I come back now and let's say I type anything, it should show. Oops, it's not showing. If value though is empty, no, if it's empty, set it to false. My bad, sorry. Else, set it to true. Okay, so we're going to save that. All right, so let's clear this. Okay, so now it's empty and it's not showing. If we start typing, it will show. If it's empty, it will not show if we start typing. And now if I click on this button, it's going to clear. Okay, but now this one is still showing. We don't want it to be like that. So what I'll do, once we clear this icon, I also want to remove the clear icon and then set it to false. Okay, so this is it. We are good with these parts. We don't need to spend much time here anymore. So now if I start typing anything and if I click on this button, this one will also go out. Okay, and that is nice and that is cool. So now the next thing I'm going to do now is to create the code feed. Okay, so here we are going to input the code. All right, so we are going to put it here. So this is just more like the code feed where we're going to put the code once the user receives it. And it's also going to be a container as well. And I'm going to have a margin. And it's going to be symmetric, sorry. And I will give it a vertical. And it's going to be 20. Yeah. Okay, so now I'm going to have another one for the child widget. Is going to be a column. You're going to know why I'm using a column later. So I'll use a column. And the children, so it's going to be a widget, you know that. So I will wrap this with a role also. And the role with the children, and then I'll add an expanded widget. So this is basically where you're going to put your phone number. All right, so I wrap this with an expanded widget. Okay, and the expanded widget takes a child also, and the child is a test form feed. Okay, so I'm just going to oops, so let me just code this real quick. Alright, so we are done with that part. Let me save it to see how it's going to appear here. Alright, so we have the verification code, and I remove the input border. Alright, so this is not looking nice for now. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to wrap this stuff with a container. Okay, let me just wrap it to the container widgets, and I'll do some styling to it. And then I will give it the decoration. Alright, so this is good. Now we have the verification code, and now I'm going to give this the controller. So basically this is going to be for code, to just retrieve the code. So I'll go up here and then create a controller for that. So I'll just duplicate this and change this stuff to code. Okay, so we have that. Alright, so let's go down again to the verification code side, and this is the expanded. I can just give it a flex of 2 if I want, but I can just leave it this way, or let me just put a flex. Okay, alright, so now I'm going to add a size box because I want to give some size, because I'm going to put another test widget there. So I just give it a size box with a width of 20, or I can reduce it to 10, and then I'm going to have a button that we are going to, once we click on it, it's going to get the code. Alright, so it's just going to be a get code button, and I'll go give this an expanded widget. So this is the reason why I made it to be flex, because I want it to take more space than the expanded widget I'm going to put here. Alright, so I'll have a child, and basically it's going to be a container, so I'll have to wrap it with gesture detector because you might want to click on it. So I'll use gesture detector. Okay, yeah, because I want to click on it. And on tab property, so let's just leave it this way, empty first, and then I'll have a child. As I said initially, is going to be a container. Alright, so and the container is going to be let me just give it a padding. So I will give it, okay, it's going to be 10, and it's 10 not too small, let's make it 17. Alright, so I'm going to give it an alignment because I want it to be at the center. Okay, and then secondly, I will give it a decoration as well, so you see all of these in action once we finish. And decoration, still a border, just like removing the border, so we use border.or. Yep, and color dot gray. Okay, alright, so I'm also giving it a width so of 1.5 as well. Alright, so now I'm going to move on to creating the child, and it's going to be a test widget, and the test widget is going to be a countdown, because I want it to be like, yeah, more like a countdown. Okay, so I'm going to use a timer as well for this. So basically the code is going to, once you send it, it will take 60 seconds for it to expire. So I want to put that countdown that will be counting down until the user verifies the code. Once it reaches 0, then you can resend the verification code again, but until it's counting down to 0 you cannot request for another code. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to create a widget. So it's going to be like more like I'm going to create a variable. So for now, let me just give it get test. Yes, get code test. Okay, and that's what it's going to show for now. So let me save it. Okay, get code test. All right, so we are not done with it here. We are still going to work on that side. So now I can give it a style. Okay, a style to make it nice. So just have a test style. Okay, and then I'm going to have a color. So the color, basically for now, let me just set it to gray. Okay, I'm going to create other variables too, but let me just set it to gray. Don't worry guys, we're almost done with the UI. So I'm also going to set the font weight. It's going to be font weight dot bold. Okay, and I can save this, and we should see a nice looking text. Okay, bold and a smaller a little bit. So right now I'm going to create two variables, one for getting the code test and another one because this code test is going to change dynamically. Whenever we send the code, we want to change the test to a countdown timer. And then secondly, I want to change this button. So if the code has been sent successfully, I want to send the untap property to null. Else, we are going to set it to be tappable. All right. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to create a value here. So up here, I will create a string test, and it's going to be get code test. All right. So for now, it's going to be get code. Okay, all right, and then I'm going to create another one which is a boolean value. So it's going to be is sending. Yeah, that's going to be, so if it's sending, like, I'm going to set it to false. Okay, I made a mistake here, so I'm going to change this stuff. All right, so now I'm going to utilize these functions. Okay, it's sending and it gets stuff. So now what I'm going to do, this get test, I'm going to add a $sign to just make as a string interpolation there. So this stuff should change to, save it, it should change to get code, I believe. All right, get code. Okay, so now I'm going to use some conditional statements. So inside here now we'll say if like is sending, if is equal to false, then we can make this stuff to be tappable, else that is clickable, else we can just set it to null. Okay, and all right, so inside here, this is where we're going to implement our function. So what we are going to do is just check if the phone auth, that is the phone number, which is this phone number test form feed. So if it's not empty, so if the phone number dot test dot is not empty, okay, so basically what we are going to do is just to verify the phone number of the user. So we can just verify phone number. So this is just going to be more like a function. Okay, but for now let me just print out the phone. Okay, that is whatever the user entered there. So we can just print out the phone. All right, and but it would be nice to print out the phone and the zip code as well. Okay, so I'm just going to concatenate that, like doing it this way. So it's just going to be like more like a string, and we're going to have the selected country. Remember that was the variable I used. Selected country, which is this, any country that the user selected here. Then I will selected country, yeah, is a string. So I will selected country plus and the phone number. Okay, so this is what we are going to send to the Firebase for verification. Okay, all right. Okay, so now I can just string final string and I can just call this number. Okay, let me just call it number, and then here instead of printing the phone alone, I'll just print out the number. Okay, all right. So but now this is not all. We are supposed to create a function. We are going to call the verify phone number function here, and then passing the number inside as a constructor, sorry, as a parameter. Okay, so here now I'm going to use something, this color. So I'll check if it's sending, that is sending, if it's equal to false, and I will just return gold. I will just return gray, sorry. Else I'm going to return gold. Let me say amber. Okay. All right. All right. Feel free to do a hot restart here. This is not all, you know. This is not everything for now. Okay. So, and lastly is actually the button that we're going to click on to submit everything, like the code once it's been like if you put in your phone number now, let me just say okay, I just put in any number, and then if I click on get code, it will just send the verification. But now I printed it out, you can see the +234 plus the code I entered. Okay, then I want to create another button here. That is if you put the once after you get the verification code, you put it here, then once you click on the submit button, is going to send the verification code for verification, and once everything is successful, we just sign the user in. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do now real quick. So inside here I believe I have this, okay, this container. All right, so at the end of it I'm going to create the submit button. I know this video is taking a long time, but let's just continue. So what I'm going to do is just to create a simple container with gesture detector. And I don't want to make this one too complex, so okay, and I will have a child of container, and so I will have this as I need a decoration as well. Is there any need for decoration? No need actually, so just give it a color, and it's going to be colors.amber, and I will give it a padding as well. Okay, and 10, and then I will go with the child, and which is going to be a test, so it's just going to be submit. All right, or verify code, simple verify code. Okay, and let me save it and see what we are going to get. Okay, verify code, but I want it to be full, so I can just give it a width. Okay, so it's just going to be media query out of context, and just take the full width. That's width. Okay. Okay. All right, save it up. All right, and that stuff is not aligned to the center, so I can just give it an alignment property. And this stuff, the padding, I can just, let me just give it 15, okay, to make it look nice, and save it, and we should have a nice looking stuff. All right, so now once we click on this button, it's going to verify the code for us. All right, but for this I also need to create another function, another variable again, a boolean variable to check if it's loading or not. So I'll just say bool that is verifying, or I can just say is loading. So that is if this, we are only going to use this boolean value for this button here. So if it's loading, I will set it to false initially, and then go down to where we have the submit button, and then here I will check. So if it's loading, so is loading, if it's equal to false, so we can just return whatever method, whatever callback we want. Else I will change it to null. Right, and also I wanted to have a kind of a circular indicator if that is needed. Okay, so verify code, I will just do something like this. Okay, more like a test widget, and it's going to be more like okay, let's say uh, is loading, so you can return uh, a circular indicator if you want. So if I say is loading is equal to false, then I want to return the verify code. But if it's not, then I want to return a test widget. So I will just tell you that, hey, loading, so please wait. All right, so save this, and for now nothing will happen, no changes, because we didn't change anything. Okay, all right, so inside here is where I'm going to call the function to trigger. So just say if code, which is this particular verification code here. So if the code dot test is not empty, so I'm doing the same thing I did for the phone number button as well. So if it's not empty, we're just going to call the verify code method. All right, verify code method. Okay, so I'm going to create those stuff real quick. So for now, let's just leave it the way it is. Okay, now back, we are now set for the proper implementation of this. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is to do the implementation for verifying the phone number. Remember I told you that I was going to use a timer, okay, to actually set this time to be counting down. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'll go up here. First thing first, I'm going to do everything inside this widget, so I don't want to complicate everything. So what I'll do, this one, I'll just create a timer, and for now it's going to be null. Okay, timer, yeah, timer, and I'll just give it a timer, which is code timer. Okay, all right, and we are good with that part. So now let me go down. So I'm going to write all my functions inside here. So we have this scaffold. All right, so I'm going to create a void method to verify the phone number. Okay, so you got to pay a lot of attention here, because this is where the main thing starts. So I will need a build context. Okay, I will also need the phone number of the user, the phone number you entered. All right, and then it's going to be in a sync. All right, because we are communicating with Firebase now, so it's going to run in the background. All right, so first I will create a duration, because I want this to last for 60 seconds. Okay, yeah, an int of type int. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to initialize this timer class I created here, this code timer. Okay, so I'm going to initialize it, so I can reduce this a little. All right, so now I'm going to initialize it here, so it will be code timer. All right, and I will set it to timer.periodic, because I want it to run every 1 second. Okay, so I will set the duration to be seconds of 1. Okay, and it's going to be a timer, remember, and you can decide to give it a type if you want, but it doesn't matter. And then here now I'm going to set state. I believe I can call set state inside here. All right, so I can call set state inside here. So all the methods are going to be inside the set state. So format it properly. Make sure you close this. All right, to format it properly. So set state, I'm going to write what I want inside the set state. Okay, so if you're using state management approach, you know how to implement that using if you're using provider block, whatever one you're using. So I'll be using set state, and in case you want me to create a video on provider, let me know in the comment section below, and I'm going to do that, because provider is the state management I use for my application. So at first I want to set the is sending. So once you click on it, it's sending, I want to set it to true. Okay, so if you remember the it's sending variable I created, which is for this one to actually get the code, which is here, is sending. Okay, it's sending. I'll set this on to false and all that. So basically verify phone number int duration, and once you click on it, I will set the it's sending to true, so to show that hey, we are sending the code, so it will just change the UI for us. And then I can use some conditional statement, and I will check, because once we start the timer automatically, I want to be reducing this duration from 60, 59, 58 down to 0. So I will check for duration here. So if the duration is less than 1, that means it's equal to 0. Then what we are going to do, we are just going to stop the counter instantly. So first thing first, the code timer, I will cancel it, which is this code timer. So I'm going to cancel it. That means I'm stopping it. All right. So cancel means to stop it. And then once I do that, I'm going to set the is sending back to false. Okay, so that way the user can click on it again to send another code. Okay, in case you didn't get the previous one. So now I can set it to false. And then the get test, remember the get code test which I created above this this get code test, I created it to be get code. All right, so whenever we click on sending, it's going to change to the timer. All right, but you're going to see that once I finish. So I will set it back to get code. That is if the duration is less than 0. But if it's not, then we want to start the countdown. So what I will do, I will reduce the duration by 1 for every 1 second based on the duration which we set here. For every 1 second, I will reduce it by 1. Okay, and then the get code test, and I will set it to the duration. So it's going to be of string, so I'll just use string interpolation, and I will set it like this, so which is duration seconds. So once we are reducing it by 1, it will be 59 seconds, 58 seconds, 57 seconds, 56 seconds, and just like that. Okay, and all right, so now I can save this, but now I've not integrated the Firebase stuff, but let me show you how this stuff work. So I'm going to copy this verify phone number and then set it here. So whenever we click on this get code button, it's going to trigger this function, and it requires a context. So I want to put the context, and it also needs the phone number. So this is actually the phone number I'm passing. If you hover on it, it's taking context and the string of phone number. All right, so I think we are done with this part. So then I might not come back here again. So this is like if phone.test is not empty, then do this. Okay, let me just do a hot restart, and you will see this at work. Once you click on it, it's going to call the timer, and is sending is going to be set to true, and then everything in the widget will just change. All right, so let's see. If we click on this button, nothing will happen until we type a number. So let me just type 080. Okay, and you remove it, and once we click on this, we should get some. All right, and you can see the code has been printed out and the function has been triggered, and you can see now the countdown is counting down 53 seconds, which is exactly what we did here. And duration seconds, you can see the get code test has changed to 54 seconds, 53 seconds. And okay, so let me just, all right, and I will just watch this until it reaches 0, and you will see that it will change back to this get code. And right now we cannot click on it because it has been set to false. We cannot click on it from this method I set here. So if it's sending is equal to false, we are going to return here. But if it's equal to true, they will set it to null. And in this case, it's equal to true because I set it once we call this method. It's set to true, and now it's reducing, and the test is duration. If you watch now, once it gets to 0, it's going to set it back to false, and the get code is going to change. Have you seen it there? So now we can click on it again to trigger the function again. All right, so let's just, okay, so now we are done with this part. So now let's integrate the phone authentication. All right, so inside here, all right, outside this stuff, I'm going to integrate the phone auth. Okay, all right, so this is still counting down, so just remove your eyes there. So focus on this part where I'm going to do the phone authentication. Remember, we are using the Firebase auth, so I need to call the Firebase instance inside here. So you can decide to call it above this function, but I just want to call it inside here. Okay, Firebase auth, and I will call this auth. Okay, Firebase auth, right? Did I import that? Okay, all right, import it, Firebase auth, and then we're going to initialize it here. Okay, Firebase auth dot instance. Okay, and then next I'm going to await this. Okay, remember I use a sync here, so I await will work. So I'll say await auth dot verify phone number. Okay, so it has this callback here, this method, and you can see lots of things. So let me just, all right, so now I'm going to just collapse this one after the other. All right, so the phone number is just going to be this one, this phone here. All right, so that's what I'm going to pass here. All right, okay, remove this. So we take the phone number, I'm just going to pass the phone here. Okay, and I think we are done with that one. And then the next one I'm going to do is for verification completed. Basically this verification completed is normally called whenever the let's say the code is automatically detected. All right, so you want to do anything, but what I'm just going to do is just set this stuff to null. Okay, so I won't be calling any function there. Okay, so I'll just set it to null. Okay, and then the next one is going to be for the code sent. Verification complete. I can actually do something there if I want. Okay, remember our goal is to, once you log in the user, we want to take him or her to this home page. All right, so what I'll do, I'll just, okay, let me just copy this. For your sake, I'm not going to set this stuff to null, so I'm just going to show you how to integrate it. So whenever this method is only called whenever let's say you send the code, Firebase send the code to the user's device automatically. Sometimes Firebase will be able to get that verification code instantly, all right, by your device, and then that way to just trigger the login process and then log in the user. Well, in some cases you might just receive the code and copy it, put it manually inside the verification code. But in the case where it's being verified automatically by Firebase without you putting the verification code, that's what this verification completed means. So what we're just going to do, I'm just going to show you how to do that. All right, so I'm not going to skip any part. I don't care how long the video is going to be, but I don't want to skip any part because I want you to actually get something from this. So we're going to do the phone auth credential. Okay, so it's going to be the credential. Okay, so it's going to be in a sync. All right, okay, so on verification completed, what I'm going to do is just call await equal to the auth class. Okay, the auth here, auth dot sign in user, I believe, sign in user with credential, sign in with credential, and then we can pass in the credential inside here. All right, so once we get that, await, okay, remove the equal to. Okay, once we get that, we can then navigate and push until. Okay, so I will just go here. Let me just copy something here. Push and remove. Okay, so I can just copy this. Okay. Oops. Okay, and then just paste it here. All right. So once the verification is completed automatically by Firebase, we just navigate the users to the home page. All right, and then on verification fade, basically we can just return. On verification fade, we can just show a snack bar if we want. So here, and there is also a method timeout. All right, so okay, yeah, there's a method of timeout. Yeah, timeout duration is going to be, you can just set it to, so there should be a timeout which is seconds of 60 seconds. All right, that is good. Then verification fade, so it's going to be a function, and I'm going to say Firebase exception and call this one error, and basically I'm just going to show a scaffold, so just call scaffold messenger and dot of context, and then show your snack bar if there is any error, and we can get a test widget and just show the error there for the user. All right, so just call it error.code. Okay, all right. And secondly, the last two we have here is code sent and code auto retrieval timeout. So this code auto retrieval timeout, I'm just going to set it to null. All right, so it's not really for this, I don't think it's needed. So what I'm just going to do is still going to be a function. I'll just set it to string and set it to verification ID, and I can just return null there, so I don't need it. Right, so we are good, and don't forget to close this. So lastly is the code sent. So if the code is being sent, what are we going to do? So the first thing, I want to retrieve the verification code whenever the code is being sent. It's very important, because without that we won't be able to verify the code that was sent. So what I will do, I will set it takes two parameters first. The first one is a string. Both of them are actually a string, I believe. Okay, no, the first one is a string and the second one is an integer. So we're going to have verification ID, and then the second one is going to be an int. So first resending token. This is if you want to send it again, but it's not necessary because I'm not going to handle this one. So set resending token. All right, so here now I'm going to set state. So whenever we get the verification ID, that we're going to call this whenever the code has been sent to the user's device. So once we get that, I'm going to create my verification ID. So this is a variable, so I'm going to create it, my verification code, or I can say verification ID, and I'll set it to this verification ID. All right, okay, so let's save that. So now this is showing red because I don't have the function yet, so I'm going to go up here and create an empty function. All right, so here I'm going to create that function, yes, somewhere around here. Okay, so it's going to be a string. I say function, a variable, sorry. So it's going to be an empty string for now. All right, so I think we are done with the verification of phone. And first we set the duration, and then we use Firebase auth, and verification fade will show this message, timeout will show this. So on verification completed, automatically we are just going to navigate the user to the home page. And you can do anything you want to do here. If you want to get the user's data and save it to a shared preference, you can do that. Or you want to send it to your server, you can do that. Then the phone number is just a normal string, which is the phone number I pass as an argument, as a parameter here. All right. And then code auto retrieval, I just send it to null. Code sent, I got the verification ID and then set it to the string which I just created. And I think that is all. And then the next thing we are going to do is just to create a method. So basically the method is going to be for verifying the code, verify code. But for now, let's test this out. So let me just do a hot restart and see if this code is going to trigger. Basically I'm using an emulator, so I'll just use my device here, and I believe the auto retrieval should not work. This verification completed should not work, and let's try it first. This is my device, so the SIM card the mobile number I'm going to use is in my phone right now. So I'll just set it up. So it's going to be 090, okay, 87322 and 866. Okay, so we'll remove it and let's click on get code and see what will happen right here. Alright, so wait for it. The countdown is counting. Let's see if this is going to work. Okay, I can see some actions taking place here, and I think the captcha should show. Okay, HTTP status 400. Open with Chrome. Let's see. We are having some errors here. I think I have some. Okay, maybe I didn't enable phone authentication inside my let's see if the phone auth is being enabled here. So let's look at the sign-in method. Okay, phone authentication is not enabled. My bad. That's why we are getting that error. So I'm going to enable this real quick. All right, so phone not requires additional configuration step. Follow this step for Android. We have already done that. That was when we tried to add your. Let's see if. Okay, so we don't need this. Go away. All right. So now we can just save this. You just have to enable it. Okay, you just have to enable it, and then let's go back to our app. Okay, and just accept this because what is all this? This process is too long. Okay, so it's actually going to bring up the reCAPTCHA for us, and Firebase app, verifying you are not a real bot. So let's just complete these steps, and once we complete it, I believe it's going to take us back to our app. But let's see, traffic lights, and this is a traffic light, this is it, and verify. All right, back to our app, and I should receive the code from in my phone. Let's see if everything went well. I should get it. Okay, I didn't get it, so I'll just do a hot restart and then restart. Okay, I just got the code now. I just got the code now in my phone. All right, yeah, I just got the code now in my phone. Okay, is a 6-digit number. 22962 is your verification code for Flutter app, Firebase. Okay, so I think that one is working now. Everything is good. So if you follow my implementation, definitely you're going to get everything correctly. But first, it is going to verify you if you're a robot or not. So now I got the code now in my device. So now let's go on to setting up the verification to verify the code. Okay. So to verify the SMS code, I'm just going to create a function. So it's going to be a void method. Verify SMS code. Okay. And basically it's going to take the code itself and a context. Okay. So this code is going to take is the code which we are going to pass in here, which is the verification code. So I'm just going to pass it as a string. So we are still doing the same method, the same thing we did for authenticating the verifying the phone number. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do here as well. So this code is going to be the code, the verification code whenever you copy it and then put it inside. All right, so now I'm going to use the Firebase auth. Firebase auth, and it's going to be auth and Firebase auth. So you don't want to be doing this in every time. Just define this Firebase auth variable above your scaffold widget. Okay, and then here I'm going to set state. So basically we have this is loading, right? We have this loading, and I'm going to set it to true whenever we click. Remember, this is loading is different from this one I use here, which is sending. So is loading is only used for this verification. To change the verification code to loading, all right, you can see it's loading. Set it to false, set it to null else. Okay, and let's go down. So I hope I'm not complicating the stuff. So now I'm going to create a phone auth credential, okay, with the code. Okay, so basically I'm just going to do phone auth credential, so I will call this one credential, and I will say phone, set it to phone auth provider, phone auth provider dot credential. And then now the credential I'm going to pass, you can see the credential is taking two things. So let me collapse it first. Okay, so I have to collapse this and collapse this as well. So you can see that it's taking the verification ID, which was this ID I set state here to verification ID whenever the code is being sent. So I'm going to copy this. So by now, once the code is being sent, initially I set this verification code to be empty string. Okay, so you can check it here. So I set it here to be an empty string. All right, so whenever we send the code, and we're going to set the state and then set the verification code to the verification ID here. All right, so now I'm going to make use of that verification ID, and I'm going to set it here, my verification ID, and then the SMS code is a string, so it should be this one here. All right, the code. Okay, and I will close that. We don't need it anymore. Then secondly, I'm going to sign in the user, okay, with the credential, okay, with this credential which I just created here. So what I'll do, I'll just call await. Remember, I use a sync here, so await should work, and then I'll use my auth class, okay, auth dot sign in with credential. All right, sign in with credential, and then I'll pass in the credential. So it's just similar thing we actually did here with this verification completed. All right, but this one now is that we didn't get the verification ID because this one is going to provide it automatically inside this phone auth credential. But in this case now we are passing the verification ID and the SMS code. Okay, so once we get this stuff done, we are going to navigate. Once we get it, I'll just set state back, and to ease loading I will set it to false, and then we can then navigate to the next page. So I'll just copy this stuff here, which is this one. So we're going to navigate to the home page ASAP. Alright, so you can see how simple. These are just a few lines of code, nothing much, and I think we are done. So I can save this, and then this verify SMS code, I'm going to take it down to that button, which is this verify code. So I'm going to put it here. Okay, here we have the verify code method. So I'm going to paste it here, and then put the context. It requires 2 parameters, and then the code. Okay, code dot test. All right, you also want to remove every white space before and after. All right, just stream it and save it. So now we'll do a hot restart. We are done. We don't need no other modification again, just that you will see the code when it's sent because it's been sent to my physical device. All right, so you're going to see it, but if you implement it in your own way, your own phone, you should see the stuff. So this is just an emulator, so I can't use a SIM card here or whatever. So now I'm going to put that phone number again, which I used, which is 09087. Okay, all right, this is the number, and this is my country code. Make sure this country code matches the one for your country, so don't go and use this. If you use +1, it's going to change it to +1, so make sure you use this one. Is for Nigeria, that's why I'm using this. All right, and so now I can click on, okay, let me remove this. So now I can click on get code, and it should also, let me see, maybe it can open the recapture page again, but let's see. So it's counting down, and some activities are going under the hood. All right, and okay, you can see we didn't get that error again because we have already enabled the phone auth from our Firebase console. Okay, so we are going to pass through all this process. Don't bother yourself, this thing doesn't take time. Okay, so now everything is okay, and I should receive the code in my device. Let's wait. Alright, so I just received it now, and it's 202962. Alright, so let me just put it down real quick. 202962. Alright, so we can collapse this, and now I can verify the code, and you can see it has changed to loading, and then once everything is set up, we now move over to this email. So the reason why we are having email null is because using the phone authentication, you cannot get the phone number, the email address of the user. So it must be, you can only get the phone number of the user because you're using phone authentication. All right. Okay, so to fix this stuff, now we're going to go to our home page. So instead of using string email current user.email, so we can use some if statement here. So we can say if this email now is equal to null, all right, then we can just send it to, we can just return it to be Firebase auth dot instance dot current user. If it's null, then we can just get the phone number, else we can then get this stuff back, which is the email address of the user. Okay, copy it, and then we can just put it here. And okay, so instead of phone number, I can just say user. All right, let it just be user. And then here I think there's an error somewhere, so we can just change this stuff to user. All right, so save it. I believe we should get the phone number of the user. So this is actually my phone number, +234 9087322866. So guys, this is how you do phone number authentication. So if we sign out now and try to do that again, continue with phone, and let me put the phone number real quick. All right, please don't forget to subscribe, don't forget to give it a thumbs up if you liked the video, and I'm going to come up with more exciting ones in the future. So okay, get code, and the countdown should start, and you can see some activities are going on under the hood, and you can see it's finishing. It should be all right. We are having, okay, I think this is cannot be loaded. All right, so this is not necessary. Okay, so we are going to pass through this captcha again. Okay, just wait for some seconds. I should receive the code in my phone now. All right, so I just received it now, so I'm going to put the code real quick, which is 41. This one is different from the initial one. 414515. All right, so now we can click on verified code and wait for some times, and once everything is good, and we are going to move over to the home page. So now you can use this phone number, display it wherever you want to display, and then save it to your database or whatever. So now if I go to my Firebase console now and go to users, I should see that number. So this is the number that I will just use to sign in, and it has a unique user ID from others. All right guys, so this is how you authenticate users using their phone number. Thank you so much for watching. I'm going to put the link to the previous section, the previous video, in this comment section, in the description section below. Do well to subscribe, like, and also share. I'll see you in my next tutorial. Thank you.